before we jump into that, this week I'm going to be talking about the future state. How do you build future state? What should that process look like? And what does it need to happen? Like, what needs to happen step by step? So without further ado, we're going to jump right in. So first of all, can anybody tell me the purpose of future state? What are our goals inside of future state? Let me know in the chat if you guys have them. Goals of future state. You guys let me know what you think. I want to get a good idea. If you don't understand, okay, I like that. Get them to vision their goal. Get them to experience life after the sale. Andre, that's a good one. Build the space between where they are and where they want to be. All really good answers, right? So when we talk about future state, there's two main objectives here. Number one is to figure out what exactly are they trying to accomplish to get what we call tangibles, right? Have you guys ever heard me use the word tangibles? If you've ever heard me use the word tangibles, it's like, what are the things that they are trying to accomplish? Meaning, are they trying to pay off debt? Are they trying to put a down payment on a house? Something that we can tie back to like a price, right? And the second part is to put them further into that emotional state, but we're pulling them the opposite way. So with problem impact, we're putting them more into like a negative state. This is what we're running away from, right? With future pacing, we're putting them into that excited state. And what we're doing by doing both is we're building more of a gap. All right, so let's talk about transitioning out of problem impact. My favorite way of transitioning out of problem impact is it sounds like it's time to make a change, right? Now, there's a couple of ways you can transition out of problem impact. So we have like a transition phase for a connection in a situation in a problem, so forth and so on. My favorite way of transitioning out of problem awareness or problem impact is just to say, well, it sounds like at this point it's time to make a change. Or you could use something like this. This is another good one. It sounds like the most important thing for you is, and I'll say XYZ, right? So like, for example, let's say we have a seller who is in a neighborhood she doesn't like, right? For whatever reason. Sounds like the most important thing for you at this point is just to be able to get out of this neighborhood so you can start enjoying the rest of your life. Or let's say we have somebody that wants to retire, they're a retired landlord, right? Have a bunch of rentals. Yeah, it sounds like at this point, I mean, you're just done with these rental properties. Like you want to just get rid of them and you want to start moving on to the next chapter of your life, right? So that's my transition statement, my transition question. Once I go through that, I want to ask what's next, right? So what's next for you? Now, this can be asked different ways. We kind of break it down on, this will be broken down into like homeowners or vacant properties and investors. If it's a homeowner, then I'm just going to ask the very simple question, where are you headed next? If I don't already have it, right? And let me put this so you guys can see this a little bit better. Now, what do we do if this is a vacant property or a rental? Can anybody tell me the question that we like to ask right there? If it's a vacant property or a rental, how do we figure out what they're going to do with the money without sounding like a weirdo? Let me fix this right here. There we go. So have you guys ever tried to ask the question like, so what are you going to be doing with the money after the sale? Right? Sounds kind of weird, right? It would sound kind of cringy. Andre, I love it, man. 2 for 2. The Vegas question, right? You guys got it. The Vegas question. So there's a couple of different ways to phrase that. Now, if somebody's like super open and it's a vacant property, like, yeah, you can just ask, so what's the plan with the money? But typically, like, you know, people with the investors or vacant properties and they're acting like it's not that big of a deal. They're like, yeah, I don't know. It's cash flowing. I don't even know if I want to sell it. They're kind of like neutral with it. You're not going to say, well, what do you want to do with the money? You might use a Vegas question. So if you guys aren't familiar with the Vegas question, it sounds like this. So let's say you sell the property. You're going to be taking, and it's a playful tone, so I'll go over the tone in a second. taking a one-way trip to Vegas and putting it all on black. And then we ask, what's the plan? Or what's the plan? Let me make that a little bigger for you guys so you guys can see it. And there we go. Let's see. There we go. I want to make it a little bit bigger. So this is so important that you do this in a playful tonality. If you ask the seller like this, so let's say you sell the property, are you just taking a one-way trip to Vegas and putting it all on black? They're going to be like, what the heck is wrong with you? Why did you just ask that, right? You gotta really be playful. And it doesn't have to be word for word like this. So man, you got all these rentals. Like, let's say you sell them. Like, you're not going to Vegas and taking a one-way trip, putting it all on black, are you? And then they're going to laugh. They're going to be like, no, I'm doing this, right? And it doesn't have to be Vegas. I've used a couple of other lines. You're not just like moving to Tahiti, are you? And just like saying adios. No, I'm going to be doing X, Y, and Z. And so what we're trying to get here is what's the plan with the money, right? So like what I'm trying to find out once I have this is tangibles. Okay. Now I want to explain tangibles because if you guys do not understand tangibles, you're not going to understand needs. And all of our process, all focuses down to the needs. Everything comes down to getting those needs, right? And this is the one thing that, like, if we're getting problem impact, we're getting future state, the pinnacle is getting the bottom dollar needs. And so the way that we want to tee that up is with tangibles. Now, can somebody give me an example of real tangibles from seller conversations you guys had last week? If you don't know what tangibles are, I'll explain it too. But let me know in the chat. Real tangibles from sellers that you guys have had in the last couple of weeks. Great one, Josh. Down payment for a house. What else? That's a great tangible, right? That's like a payoff debt. Good job, Hayden. What else we got? I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page with what are tangibles. So let me write it out because it seems like some people are still confused. Josh, Hayden, you guys got it. But what a tangible is it's a result that they're trying to get to that we can tie a dollar amount to. And so, for example, type in a 1 in the chat if this is a tangible. Type in a 2 if it's not. I'm trying to move to Texas. Is that a tangible? All right, awesome. You guys got it. All right. What about this? I want to pay off my truck. Is that a tangible? Yeah, that's a tangible. All right, cool. So you guys get it, right? So like, I want to move to Texas is not a tangible. And so this is where I see the most people mess up in future state is they get what they're trying to do, but they don't get the tangibles, right? And so like I've had calls with sellers where literally I'm getting how much their credit card is, how much their medical debts are, how much they're trying to pay off on their mortgage. Like I'm going in detail with everything. Because they're like, man, I got to get out of this debt. I'm not even going to ask the question, how much debt do you have to pay off? I'm going to go deeper than that. I'm going to be like, okay, so what kind of debt do we have, right? I've got some medical debt, I've got some credit card debt, and I've got some auto loans, right? Next week, I'm going to go a lot deeper into needs anchor consequence. I'm going to do like a really in-depth class on needs anchor consequence so you guys understand it a little bit better. But when I go into what's next and like once I get the tangibles, I'm using the tangibles because if I can't get all of their tangibles, I'm going to ask them what the most important one is. So let's say they're like, I need to buy a house in Florida. That's going to cost, minimum $20,000. That's the lowest I can put down. I need to pay off some credit card debts and I need to pay off my car. I might ask, of all of those, what are the most important? Well, definitely buying the house. All right. So if I'm doing my needs, I'm not going to say, okay, let's say that all the offers came back at 20 grand. I'm going to say, let's say the offers came back at 20 grand. You can still buy the house, but you have to hang on to that car payment. Would that still put you in a better position? Type in a 1 if you get that. Type in a 2 if you don't. I want to make sure you guys understand the purpose of tangibles. All right, cool. You guys get it. So once I get the tangibles, now I'm going to go into, so I have what's next. I'm going to get the tangibles. Now I go into my future pacing question. What are you looking forward to the most? Now, Jeremy, if you guys have, so I know a lot of you guys have paid for the portal, like the pro portal. So you guys will see in the solution awareness, Jeremy asked the question, how do you see things being different than they are now? I want you guys to have the flexibility to be able to ask the right question at the right time. And so I want you guys to think of your sales conversation like water. It's not you have to be able to move with it, right? And so, for example, if the seller has already told you everything that's going to be different, I'm not going to ask what do you feel like is going to be the biggest difference about that? Or if I'm talking to, let's say I'm talking to a vacant property, or a vacant property owner, right? And they're like, yeah, this house has been vacant for the last 3 years. I really want to take the money and I want to use it to pay off my student loans. And you go, well, let's say that you pay off the student loans. How do you see things being different than they are right now? That would be a weird question. Do you guys agree with that? Right? And so I have to have the flexibility to ask the right question at the right time. If they're saying, I'm trying to pay off my student loans, and I'm like, okay, it's 30 grand. Gosh, I mean, what are you looking forward to the most about just being debt free? Oh my gosh, being able to reinvest that money, being able to do this. Yeah, how's that going to feel? Right? That question would land. Let me give you an example of when I would use what do you see the main differences being? Let's say the seller is staying in the area, right? And they're just moving to a different house in a different neighborhood. And inside of Problem Impact, like maybe we didn't get enough to like really, really get that commitment at the end. I might say, so help me understand, like, let's say you are able to move to this nicer house. I know you said it's going to be in a little bit of a nicer neighborhood, but what do you see like the biggest difference being between your current house and this next one? That would land, right? Because I'm really trying to like spread that gap, and it makes sense for that sort of scenario. Type in a 1 if you guys get that. Type in a 2 if you don't. I want to make sure that you guys are all on the same page with everything here. I see a lot of like nothings. All right, so you guys get it. All right, cool. Now, once we have this, what are you looking forward to the most? Now, when I say what are you looking forward to the most, I'm going to go into how's that going to feel, right? This question is extremely important right before you do the transition into needs, which I'm going to go into more in depth. Again, I'm going to cover needs next week, and we're going to pick up from this part. But the how is that going to feel? This question is going to be the question that really pulls them into that future state. Now, I'm not going to ask that like a weirdo. So somebody, Josh, let me just call you. By the way, Josh and I got to meet last week. It was really cool. So let's say let's just say that you're moving into a safer neighborhood, right? I'm going to role play with you for a second. Man, so let's say you're finally out of this house. You're in that safer neighborhood. What are you looking forward to the most about that next chapter of your life?
Well, I'm not having to worry about my kids getting in trouble, and I'm worried about if my wife is going to get robbed in that area. So, it's going to feel a lot better.
Man, I can't even imagine. So if he says it's going to feel a lot better right there, I don't have to ask it. But if he left that last part out, and if he's just like, oh, I'm going to, I don't have to worry about this, I don't have to worry about that, I'm going to be like, man, how's that going to feel just finally having that like sense of security? Oh my gosh, it's going to feel incredible, right? And what I've noticed with my calls and my team's calls, some of the guys inside the advanced group that I hear like really do this well, is when you ask this question, you get like this big relief. They're like, it's almost like they're there. They'll be like, oh my gosh, freeing. It's going to be amazing, incredible. Like you'll start to really see them in that emotional part of their brain, right? In the part of the brain that really wants to make the change, right? So if you ask that question correctly, they're not going to say, oh my God, it's going to feel incredible, but I need to get $50,000. They're just not going to do it. It doesn't make sense. They're moving it. They wouldn't move into the wrong side of their brain that quickly. They'd be like, gosh, yeah, it's going to be incredible, right? It's hard to pivot into the logical part of the brain when you're talking about things like that, right? So the way this looks is I will do like a little bit of a dry run. Let's say it's a homeowner. So like, what's next for you? Where are you actually going with this? I'm going to Texas. Okay, why Texas? We'll go into all of that stuff if we didn't get this inside of problem awareness, or we might just ask like, what's the biggest difference about Texas? Are you buying? Are you renting? Yeah, I'm buying. I'm getting the tangibles. All right, so what do you need to put down on your next house to be able to do that? Or how much is the next house going to cost? The next house is going to cost $40,000. I'm putting 20% down, right? I'm going to keep that in my back pocket for needs. I'm like, okay, cool. So it sounds like you're pretty excited. I mean, what are you looking forward to the most about being out in Texas versus where you are in California? Man, getting some land, being able to be closer to my grandkids, X, Y, and Z, right? Gosh, I know for me, like being able to have that space, like that's super important for me. That's actually one of the reasons why I moved. But I mean, I can't even imagine, how's that going to feel for you? Oh my gosh, it's going to feel incredible. Now I go into the needs, right? So I know this is a little bit more in depth than what you guys have seen in the school community as far as going into future pacing, but type in a 1 if you guys understand this better. Type in a 2 if you feel like you're a little bit confused. I want to see where everybody's at. I know how I would feel, but how's that going to feel for you is a great question, Manuel. All right, cool. So you guys get it. Real quick, before we jump into the Q&A, I just want to clear up. Does anybody have questions or scenarios that maybe didn't land for them relating to future pacing? Like, we're just going to stay on the topic for future pacing for a second. Josh, what's up, brother?
Yeah, so I was going to ask you for the tangibles. I've been having a hard time with that because it might have been the conversation we had before, but when I started asking her for like how much she needs for the next house, is she going to pay cash or down payment? It's like I triggered her because she's like, hey, like, you're not a lender, or like, why are you asking me this? Things like that. So maybe it was my tonality or something, but once I started getting into it, that's kind of like the pushback I got.
Yeah, it usually is your tone. So when you're in that stage, you're not asking things from like a curious tone. So I know it sounds crazy, but let me explain what I mean. If I go, all right, so walk me through, let's role play for a second. All right, so where are you heading next, Josh?
I'm going to be heading back to Houston.
Okay, and are you going to be buying a house? Are you renting? What's going on?
I'm going to be buying a house.
All right, and how much is the house going to cost?
Probably going to have to put about 50 grand down.
Okay, so $50,000. You see how it's like I sound kind of transactional there? Where I want to use more frames going into the sales call. And so I've probably never talked to you guys about framing. Let me just show you an example. All right, man. So let's say you move out of California. Where are you going next?
I'm going to go back to Houston.
Oh, wow. And were you in Houston before?
Yeah, that's where I grew up. So I'm going to be going back home.
Nice, man. And those houses, they cost, I'm sure, a lot less than California, right? Like, how much does a single family cost out there?
Well, the one that I want is probably like around 250,000.
Okay, and I'm sure that's like a relatively big house, right? Like 1,500 square feet. Like, how big is it?
About 1,500 square feet, maybe a little bit bigger than that. Yeah.
Man, that's incredible. And is your lender, are they making you put like 20% down? Are you going to be able to get away with like 5%, or how much is it going to cost you to get into that house?
I really want to pay it in cash, but I mean, I was going to put maybe like 50,000, whatever, 50,000.
See, like, do you see the way I asked the question with just frames? Like frames meaning like the way I'm asking the question, it sounds like it's coming more of a place of like genuine curiosity, like I'm on their side, versus I need this information to complete a sale. You know what I mean? It's subtle, but it makes a really big difference.
Yeah, the wrong way you were doing it is how I was asking it, so that makes sense.
Yeah, it's framing. Framing is like a technique that we really focus on. Like it's more advanced. Like with this stuff, we try to teach you guys like the basic fundamentals so you have it. But like eventually you do need to learn the framing, so that way you can know how to ask the questions and how to tee them up. And you can frame any conversation. So like any question that you have, you can frame it in a way that's going to land better. So like watch the difference. So how much do you need in your pocket to be able to buy that next house?
$50,000.
Okay. Now watch the way I frame this differently. Now, look, my entire goal is to be able to get you down to Houston because I understand how important that is for you. Now, I want to make sure we can help you with that. How much did you actually need in your pocket to be able to put down that next house? You see, same
Yeah.
question, but I just framed it to go, this is essentially why I'm asking the question. And I'm asking it because I'm on your side, right? Do you guys type in a 1 if you get that? 2 if you don't? I want to make sure that everybody's on the same. Okay, cool. Anybody else have questions about future pacing, future state, or anything like that?
If nobody else does, I had another one. But
What's up, dude?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, can I go?
Yep.
Okay. So sometimes I'll also have people that don't really have tangibles, like they're not going to buy a house or just going to retire, and maybe their daughter or their son is just going to be taking care of them. So it's really not spending the money anywhere, it's just really surviving. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you have to, if they don't have tangibles, you're going to get them inside of needs. So you're going to skip through it. You're basically going to go like straight into like, what are you looking forward to the most? Go into future pace, and then needs, like how much do you need for this to make sense for you? So we'll get those inside of needs if they don't have tangibles like that. It's a good question. Any other questions, guys? Concern for their situation is opposed. All right. Awesome. Let's jump into the questions that we have in the Q&A. So first one, Marvin, how do you connect with realtors to make an offer since you can't actually speak to the seller to find the true pain points? It's actually funny. We were going through this today because we had a listing agent call us about a property. You still want to go through a similar process. The difference is problem impact is not going to be based around the sellers necessarily. It's going to be based around, why is the property not sold? Why are you reaching out to us versus just, continuing to list it? Now, that's if it's like inbound. Marvin, I don't know if you're working outbound, because that's a completely different process. But like we have agents that will call us sometimes and say, hey, I want to sell a property for my client. And our whole problem impact is like, why is it not selling? And then what are your sellers looking for in the future state? That's how we go about that. You can come off mute if you have a question on top of that. Jared Hernandez, after offer delivery negotiations, how do I negotiate the seller down after an offer presentation? So Jared, and I don't know if you're on, bro. I think I see you.
Yeah, yep. I'm on.
Okay, awesome, man. So when you are trying to negotiate a seller down after an offer presentation, you want to go back to the needs. Right. So like, for example, let's say that you offer the seller $550 and the seller's trying to buy another house. And they're like, yeah, I want at least 700,000. You're going to go, hey, look, and I certainly understand that you want more money. Let me ask you this. With the $550 that we have on the table, would that be enough for you to buy that next house? Would that be enough for you to be able to pay off your credit card debt? And then what they're going to say is, yes, but I want more. Right? That's typically the next response is like, well, yeah, I could do it, but I want more. Well, why do you feel like you could? And then they're going to go, well, I feel like I could because honestly, I only need X, Y, and Z, and that would be enough to pay off this. And then from there you go, well, and that's the most important thing, right? They're like, yes, that's the most important thing. So I need to follow that framework. Now, if the seller's like, if you literally cannot solve their needs, you have to take away from tangibles. And so like, let's say, for example, you hit the seller with, would that be enough for you to be able to do X, Y, and Z? They're like, no, it wouldn't. Then let's say they have 3 tangibles. They have like a car they're trying to pay off, the credit card debt, and they need 12 months of rent. You might say, okay, and just so I know, out of all of those things, which ones are the most important for you? And they'll say, okay, well, it's being able to afford the next house. Why is that so important? Because of X, Y, and Z. Then I go, okay, do you see how with our offer you would be able to do that? Yes, I do. So I'm always just trying to get them back into the needs. Our entire process, that's why we've kind of flipped it from NEPQ to like needs-based selling is the terminology I use for this, because if I go into an offer presentation and I need to negotiate, the only way I can do that is if I have a really good problem impact, a really good future state, and I have their needs. And so I need to be able to go back to needs and show them that this offer would actually help them solve their problem. And the bigger the problem is, the more likely they're going to want to solve that problem. Does that make sense, bro?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
And then for a MOTA, how do I get actionability? Really simple line. Okay, so you're definitely selling this property. After problem impact, okay, so it sounds like you're selling the property one way or the other. Oh yeah, I'm selling. That's how I get actionability. It's like a simple line that I use. If I ever question a seller's actionability, they're like, oh, I'm not sure I'm going to sell. I'll go through my problem impact, build all the urgency, and I go, okay, so it sounds like you're selling this property one way or the other. Oh yeah, no, I'm going to sell it. That's enough actionability. If they're like, I don't know, I'm still on the fence, then I got to go back into problem impact and start building that urgency. Greg, what's up, Greg? I'll talk to you this week. Doing 2 deals per month. I'm currently going through the trainings. One of the marketing channels we use is cold call. Greg, are you cold calling, or do you have somebody cold calling for you? Because they're 2 different scripts. I don't see them. But if you're cold calling, you're going to use the. Let me just drop in the chat. Where is this thing? Give me 1 second. Let me find it. I know it's somewhere in the school community, but I'm just going to pull it up in my drive. Outbound. Boom. And I'll probably just send this to you, Greg. I'm gonna actually send it to you in school because I don't see you on the call. So I'm just gonna drop it in your chat. But this is gonna be the one for I believe you said that you're having people call for you. There we go. All right, just send it over. Jared Hernandez, another question from you. Overcoming objections. How do I overcome do your due diligence, then get back to me with an offer, like a transactional type seller? He did that in the connection phase. I overcame that. Then he brought it up right before future pacing, then hung up. That sounds like you triggered some resistance, bro. Because like if they're like, yeah, just do your due diligence with your offer and get back to me, I would just go, well, brother, that's why I'm calling you. Obviously, I do need to do my due diligence. And part of that is talking to you and finding out some things that I can't find out online. Obviously, we're going to look at Zillow. We're going to look at the tax records. We're going to find out like the basic information. But there's just some things I can't tell from looking online. Are you with me there? They're like, yeah. And so if he got like resistant inside of future pacing, I would say it was the way that you asked the question that would have triggered that resistance. That would have been my biggest concern there. Is like, what did you ask there for him to go, hey, just do your due diligence and call me back, right? Because if you're in future pacing, you're asking like, what's next? That has nothing to do with like doing your due diligence or anything like that. If you ask them a question like, what's the condition of the property or what's the square footage? Yes, he would say, do your due diligence. That's why I don't even ask those questions. Shawnee, could you share how we would calculate the MAO for a novation? Really simple. Everybody pull out a calculator if you want to do this. Say it's a $500,000 property. And so we're going to use list price as is. What are we trying to list it for right now to be able to sell? Not ARV, not anything like that. It's what are we listing it for right now? Then I'm going to times 0.95. That's going to get rid of the buyer's agent's commission and my closing costs. And then I'm going to minus my assignment fee. Let's say it's $25,000. My offer would be $450. That's how you calculate a novation. Somebody said membership, that you just use ChatGPT. I get those responses sometimes like, how do I cancel? Like if you guys want to cancel, if you go to ChatGPT and you're like, how do I cancel? It will tell you that. Chloe, unable to reach a decision maker on an actual call. I'm wondering how you handle calls who are not the decision makers of the home, who say, yeah, let me reach out to them and I'll give him or her your number, who are unwilling and comfortable, which is understandable. I've tried to skip trace numbers and owners and cannot find the possible numbers. Is it a matter of calling back the relative and try again? Chloe, can you, are you on? If you're on, can you come off mute? I don't see her on. So for me, it sounds like the way that you're going at the call. Instead of saying like, yeah, I was calling her to give her a cash offer on her property, I would say, hey, I actually had some questions about the property on 123 Main Street. It's really important I get in touch with them. You don't happen to have their number, right? And they're not going to be like, oh no, let me give it to you. It's like, hey, I have some important questions about the property on 123 Main Street. I really need to get in touch with the seller. Do you happen to have their number? that's how I'd ask that question. That should get around that. So it looks like we just answered all the questions inside of the school Q&A. So if you guys have other questions about anything, you can just come off mute. Josh, what's up, dude?
Yeah, so I had a question about my follow-ups. So I'll go through the introduction. They might hit me with an objection like, no, we're not selling, or we're going to hold off, whatever it is. Do I stay in that conversation until they're fully disarmed, or just handle the objection and then move on to the process? Or do I just acknowledge it, kind of brush it off and continue then?
Yeah, like role play with me for a second. Hey, Josh, can you hear me?
Oh, yep.
Yeah, it's just John. It's John Lalonde over at Selly's USA. Hey, we spoke back in, looks like April of last year about your property on 123 Main Street. I guess I should ask, did you sell that property, or were you still looking for ways to sell it?
Oh, no, I'm just going to hold on to it.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. And honestly, you could be better off just keeping the house. I guess I should ask, when you reached out back in April, what were you trying to accomplish by selling the home?
So I'm actually just trying to sell it so I can move somewhere else.
Then I'm going to go into my problem
Yeah.
awareness stage.
Okay.
Yeah, and you could be better off pushing that down the line. What we could do, if you feel like it would help, is I could ask you some questions about the home, the condition it's in, and when you're actually trying to do that, just to see if it makes sense for us to maybe call you back or look at an offer now. And so it sounds like you live here right now. Where's the house that you're trying to buy? Right in the problem impact.
So the problem I'm coming across there is when their guard is kind of higher, they're just kind of giving me that objection. When I asked like, hey, what was the main reason? They give me a surface level, or they're just not really like opening up. So that's why I was confused on if I need to fully disarm it. And then,
Yeah. Like, what would be a surface level? Like, give me an example.
Like, yeah, I'm just holding on to it. Hey, what's the main reason? I just want to sell it.
I just want to sell it.
I just want to hold on to it.
Yeah. So like, if you're doing your follow-up and somebody tells you like 2 or 3 times, you're like, what's the main reason you even reached out in the first place? And they're like, I don't want to sell it. I really don't want to sell it. I would leave that there. Like, I would say that you can call other people that do actually want to sell the property. Like, I'm not going to try to convince someone to sell. If I ask that question and I say, what's the main reason that you did reach out back in April? And they're like, oh, well, I reached out back in April because I wanted to sell it, but I just decided I'm going to hang on to it and give it to my kids. I might go, okay, well, why did you want to sell it back then? And they're like, well, because of XYZ, but I looked at all the numbers and it makes more sense to give it to my kids. I'm just going to leave it there. You know what I mean? Like, so if they're like very, very adamant about I am not selling the property, like I'll usually leave that conversation there. And, but I always want to ask the first question.
Okay. So you're just kind of not really getting into the whole objection handling.
Not really. I'll go like 1 or 2 times and ask them like 1 to 2 different questions. But if they keep telling me like over and over, like, I do not want to sell, I'm not selling the house, then that's fine. Now, if they're like, I'm not selling because I didn't get the right price, that's a different conversation. But if they're like, I just do not want to sell it at all anymore, regardless of the price. I don't love this handler, but there's a guy who I like online. His name's David Choi, I think. Something with the Choi. And he has this, you've seen him. He has this thing that he's like, not even if it was $1 million. And they're like, oh, if it's $1 million, I would do it. And then like, it kind of gives you enough to go into the conversation. I don't use that because I think it puts them right into like price-based thinking. And it's like, it's like sets an expectation in their head that you want the property more than they want to sell it. You know what I mean? That's what I don't like about that process. But I've seen it work for him, at least getting him into conversation. So like, there's always different lines you can try to use to see if one of them fits your personality, fits your style, and see if you can get into a conversation. I typically just try to go for like, what were you hoping to accomplish when you did want to sell?
Okay. Sounds good. I appreciate it.
Yep. Lloyd, what's up, man?
Hey, I wanted to find out, what are you doing with your leads that are in testate and they don't have any, living trust or anything, and they're in foreclosure? How are you dealing with those?
If they're in what state?
Without a living trust, basically, there's no will, no living trust or anything. Family hasn't done anything. Parents passed away, and the bank's not dealing with the heirs because they're not authorized, and it's in foreclosure. All right. What are you doing with leads like that?
I don't have like, so we do primarily PPC and YouTube, meaning like somebody's reaching out to us and like it would be it would be like an heir that was saying like, hey, I have this property. And what we do is we have a guy, I've sent him over a few times, but I think he's actually like at capacity where he's not really taking on new clients. His name's Aaron, and he takes care of all of our title, probate, like all of that work for us. So if we ever have anything like that, we send it over to him for him to clear up. I do have a lot of people in our advanced group that call those people though. Like you're trying to call heirs for properties that are in foreclosure. Like basically
Right.
they inherited it. Nobody's paying on it, like nothing like that. Right.
Right.
Yeah. So I was actually just working on this with one of my advanced students. The way you call them, I can even go over. I just finished this script for him. Let me see if I can pull it up. Maybe I'll find it. You want to call the heirs. The thing is, most of the objections you get are like, it's not my property. You know what I mean? So we did something like this, like, yeah, it's just George Rodriguez over at XYZ. I'm not sure if it makes sense for us to talk. And I know this might sound crazy, but you inherit a property that looks like you could get a good chunk of money from, but unfortunately, it looks like the house is actually about to go into foreclosure. Were you even aware of all of this? And they're like, oh, yeah, it's not my property. Yeah, that's actually pretty common that people don't know if they've inherited the house. Most people are surprised when they find out immediately. They're like, oh, my gosh, this sounds too good to be true. I'm going to get some money out of this. But that's actually what we're here to help with. And then I go into the rest of the conversation. That's how I would call those people.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Was that your question or was it something else?
Well, yeah, I was basically, I mean, that's helpful right there because I did call on one person and she went off on me because she had already been contacted by a few people when her parents had initially died.
Yeah.
And she was like, who are you? And I told her, basically who I was and, that I'm, just reaching out to see if there's a possibility of maybe being able to help her in some way, and figuring out whether or not she wanted to keep the property or get rid of it. And, depending on the situation, everybody's different. Some people want to keep the property, some want to get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then she was like, oh yeah, so you're going to give me like 10 grand to make 100,000, huh? You're a vulture. Like she just starts going off on me. And so anyway, we had a conversation. I used some of the techniques I've learned here to calm her down, and I backed away and she was like saying, I'm just going to let it go back to the bank and this. And I go, well, you could do that. I mean, that would solve the situation. But how would you feel if you found out later on that you actually had some money coming back and you just let it go?
What'd you say to that?
She was like, well, I make blah, blah, blah money. She did make good money. I mean, she was a nurse.
Yeah.
She made 200,000 a year. And I go, okay. I go, well, I mean, it could mean as much as 20,000. And she's like, well, I really don't need the money. I go, yeah, but $20,000 sure would make a nice trip to Vegas, wouldn't it? And she kind of chuckled and laughed. And
Yeah,
so I went through a whole process, whether set an appointment, because she called me as I went around the corner from her house. I left it posted on her front door because she wouldn't answer.
Mm-hmm.
And so she called me up, bawled me out. I got through all that. We set an appointment for the next week. And as I'm driving over there, I got a text canceling the appointment. I still went, door knocked her again. This time I dealt with her boyfriend,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when I used the Vegas line on them. And then he kind of chuckled. And then me and him had the same name, middle name or whatever, whatever. And
I
so
mean, it sounds to me like you did everything right, man. Like you're telling me that she was extremely hostile. You disarmed her.
Yeah.
You got her into problem awareness. It sounds like that's not even a problem with how you talk to those people. The thing that you might have not gotten is the future state needs, anchor, consequence, like proper commitment, all that stuff. Because if you can get that, then they're going to be like, yeah, I want to sell.
Oh, I ended up going back and I door knocked, and then they set another appointment with me for the following week. And then they called me to make sure I was coming.
Okay, so yeah, you're doing everything right.
Yeah, so I got the I mean, it's a deal at this point right now.
Yeah.
So I got it, and I got all the heirs and everything signed over. So I was just wondering, how you handle those, because I mean, I'm just getting started in this
If
as
you
far
got a
as
contract, bro, I think you did everything right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It sounds like you did everything well. So I wouldn't have much feedback. I mean, that's how we open up the call. So just like
Yeah.
that.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
Cool. Kyle, what's up, brother? Long time no see.
Hey, what's going on, John? Yeah,
How can I help, man?
I have two quick questions for you. The first one is it's kind of based off your last statement that you mentioned about David Choi. Sometimes I'm having conversations with homeowners, and I feel like they give me the line that they spoke with a whole bunch of different real estate investors. I tell them I'm a little bit different because I have to buy for tax purposes. If I don't spend it, I'm gonna lose it. And I feel like I'm getting a lot of people to just talking to me because they're thinking they're gonna get more money, and they're just asking for a normal, enormous amount of money.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like, do I take that line out?
Yeah.
It's kind of like David Choi with the $1 million type thing.
Yeah. Then it's what you're doing there is you're setting a frame that you need to buy their property or that you want to buy their property badly. And so it's like, if I had somebody, if I had somebody that wanted to buy one of my cars and they were like, yeah, I really want that. I need to buy this because of this. I need to buy that because of that. I'm like, oh, I have the upper hand here. Hell yeah. You know what I mean? That's what I'm thinking in my head is I have the upper hand. Like I'm winning this already because they really want the thing that I have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where if you go like, yeah, you could be, and here's the thing, you could be better off just keeping it. I'm not even sure if I want to buy it yet. That's actually why I'm calling. It sets the frame differently. So yeah, I would switch that question or that statement with like, I'm not sure I want to buy it. That's actually why I'm calling.
Okay, that makes sense. And I have one more thing for you. For your, I guess you'd say a qualified lead when you have your letters, are they getting some form of motivation before they consider that a qualified lead?
Yeah. Not for qualified leads, but for an appointment. So are you, remind me again, cold call to SDR to close, or what's your process?
It's just me. So right now it's just me.
So you're talking about hiring a setter?
I mean, in the future, but as of right now, it's just me calling. So I'm
So when you hire a setter, if you're going to hire an appointment setter, they get equity, motivation, ownership, time frame, and actionability. So basically what they're going to do is they're going to go connection phase, situation phase, find the vein. Problem impact is literally just like, okay, and just so I know what came up recently that caused you to feel like you might want to change now. They get that motivation. And then once they get the motivation, they're going to say, okay, and ideally, when would you like to have that off your plate? Time frame, they get the mortgage, and they make sure that there's nobody else on title that we need to speak to. Then they book the appointment. That's how we do it for our SDRs.
okay. And for right now, if I was by myself, if I'm having a conversation with someone and I feel like they're just having a conversation with me to have a conversation, if I give them $1 million, they'll sell their property. Do you go through your whole process? Or
Yeah.
just, okay.
Yeah, if they have a real motivation, like what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through connection, situation phase, motivation. And if I find out that they want to sell the property to move to a different state, they want to, like, if there's any sort of reason why they want to sell, I'm giving an offer on them.
Okay.
Yeah. We give an offer, I can tell you right now. 1 second. Created date. So of all the people we speak to, 158 divided by 226. We give an offer on about 70% of the people that we speak to. And that's one of the reasons why we contract 1 out of 5.6 leads per conversation. So basically, like, per people that we speak to, we get a contract on 1 out of 5.6. Whereas a lot of people aren't even making offers on 1 out of 6. You know what I mean? Like, just a lot of people are making offers on like 1 out of 10, 1 out of 15. And there's a reason why they're not competing with us, because we're making offers on basically whatever that is, whatever 70% is. We make an offer on 70% of all of our, I guess that's over 1 out of 3.
Yeah.
What are the 30% you don't make offers on? They don't fit a MOTA. So we won't make offers if they're like, I don't have enough equity to be able to sell it. They don't have any motivation. They're like, I'm not even trying to sell. I just kind of wanted to see what your offer would be. We're going to be like, okay, they're not the owners. They don't have time frames. So they're like, yeah, I'm going to sell, but it's going to be in 2 years. Or there's no actionability. Like, yeah, the actionability is kind of like not having a motivation. It's like, or like they can't sell the property for whatever reason. It's like, yeah, for example, I've had a bunch of sellers that have called and they're like, hey, can you buy my share of the property? I own it with my sister and she doesn't want to sell. I just want to sell my share of it. And I'm like, no, we're not making an offer on that property. We'll try to get the sister on board and we'll try to book an appointment with her, but we're not making an offer because we know that even if we get the offer signed, 50% of an agreement doesn't do us any good. Cool. Any other questions from you, brother?
That's it.
Luis, what's up, man? All right, Luis, are you muted? Will you make offers on someone who is just fishing, curious, or serious? Let me answer Connor's question really quick. Will you make an offer on someone who's just fishing? Like they don't really have a reason to sell? No. If they don't have a reason to sell, I'm not going to make an offer on them. They're just like, oh yeah, I'm just kind of curious what your offer would be. I'm just gonna be like, yeah, well, we don't give offers out. Like, that's not our business. It's just to give offers out for free. Like, if you have a reason that you want to sell, we'll definitely give you an offer and talk about how.
Yeah, like they might have a reason, but you can just tell it's definitely leaning towards it's much more curious. Like, I'm just fishing around. The motivation isn't there, but they frame it as in, if I get the right price, I'll move, you know.
I would
kinda
go,
more
where
like
where
that.
would you move? Why would you move there? How long have you been thinking about that? Why now? I go through all of those questions to build that urgency more. So that's
Okay.
a lot of sellers start conversations like that. Yeah, I'm just kind of curious. I'm not even sure if I want to sell yet. Yeah, that's not a problem. You could be better off keeping it. Help me understand. And then I'm going to go into my questions. Luis, what's up, man?
Yeah, quick question. So what do you do if like they're literally lying to you and they're like, oh yeah, we're making payments on the mortgage, blah, 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 blah. But when you look it up in public records, you realize it's still going to auction next week and they have been making payments.
What you can do is you can call the bank with them. You can go, oh, good. I'm actually glad you got that caught up. There's an error. It looks like it's an error on my system. Does the bank send you anything in writing that says that they're not going to take the house?
No, I think also at like, I don't know if it's like at a certain point, like once they declare bankruptcy, they don't have like online access.
Mm-hmm.
So I've gotten that objection too.
You
And
should have a
then-
number. You should have a number for
Yeah.
somebody though. And so like, if you have a phone number, you can call them with, like, basically call them together, and the bank will just tell them like, yeah, your house is going to go to auction next week. And so like, you want to look at it as like, oh yeah, that must be a mistake. Let's get this cleared up then, just so the bank doesn't take your house. And then you're going to try to call the bank with them.
Okay. All right. I'll give that a shot.
Yep. Josh, what's up?
Just to go back to the future pacing, you get the tangibles, you go through everything they need, and then the emotional state.
Yeah, correct. So I'll do a quick recap. Where's my mural?
Is there I just want to understand, is there a reason why you do the tangibles and then the emotional compared to like the other way?
Like emotional than tangibles?
Yeah.
No, you could do either one.
Okay.
Yeah, that order is not like extremely important. But it sounds like it's time to make a change. What's next? Tangibles. What are you looking forward to the most? How's that going to feel?
Okay, cool. And also, just throwing this out here, but we actually buy partial ownership to properties.
How do you?
So we've got, I think we made 80,000 on one of the deals. And
Interesting.
if anyone has a property out there, like somebody wants to sell their share, we're willing to buy it.
Interesting. Yeah, we could definitely, next time we get one, I'm gonna reach out to you, because I've had that happen a lot.
Only in
yeah.
San Antonio though, San Antonio, Texas.
Okay.
And
That's good to know.
you probably know this already, but if they've been making the payments and just kind of been taking care of the property, we have more leverage there.
Mhm.
But if they haven't and somebody else has, then it's kind of up in the air. So that's the big determining factor.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I've never dealt with anything like that. Do you know anyone who can finance land deals? It depends on what type of financing. Like, are you trying to, Luis, are you trying to finance like a 30-year mortgage? Or are you trying to get like a hard money loan? What are you trying to do?
Yeah, hard money loan. So I have a guy who wants to buy a parcel, and he has 40K, but he needs like 90. So he wants
Yeah.
the rough finance.
But not on the hard money. He's trying to like really finance it with like
Yeah, really finance it. Yeah,
what's the loan amount?
I think it's about like 45K.
I don't know anybody that will go that low. I know lenders that'll do it, but they have a minimum loan amount of 50K.
Okay.
Nick, what's up, man?
Yeah, you mentioned a script difference from whether I'm calling or the VA's calling.
Mhm.
What level of detail on the 4 pillars would you expect from VA callers?
Well, I don't do any 4 pillars, but my VAs are literally just checking for a pulse. They're
Okay.
like,
Mhm.
hey, I'm holding a copy of your property tax records. Wonder if you could help me out. Wondering if you'd be opposed to having a brief conversation about the home. No, I'm not opposed to it. Okay, from here, what I could do is set up a time. And that's about it.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to go into too many questions because especially if you have like a setter closer model, because then you win the problem awareness with the cold callers, and then they're going to go into problem awareness again with the setters, and then problem awareness again with the closers, and they're going to get to you and they're going to be like, dude, I've answered these questions 3 times. Like, I'm not going to do this. And so, like, you can get away with asking the same question twice from 2 different people, but 3
Mhm.
times I've noticed that it just kills it.
Okay.
If it's just cold callers to closers, though, you can bring them through problem impacts and have them set like a real appointment if they're in house.
Well, so what the way we're working the model right now is the cold callers do the calling. They don't set a specific appointment because the calls go through their own internal QA process for review. They basically say, hey, we'll call you back tomorrow. So we don't have a specific time set. They try to set a time, but if we get the lead before that time comes, we call them back as soon as we get it.
Yeah, it's very ineffective. You want to have speed of lead if you're cold calling. It's like one of the most important things.
Okay.
I'd rather just lower down the quality gate and just have speed of lead. I'm going to make more money.
Okay.
You'll have a really hard time getting in touch with people if you try to call them back the next day.
Yeah. Yep.
Anybody else? Any questions?
Who are you using for PPL now?
Still high speed of lead.
Okay.
Yeah, still use a lot of high speed of lead. Any other questions, guys? All right. Awesome. Well, if you guys need anything from me, let me know. Otherwise, we'll see everybody next week. Bye, everybody.